Excellencies, dear friends, thank you for being here. We are delighted to welcome you to this important side event. And I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the organizers for convening this discussion just days before the 2025 UEFA Women's Championship in Switzerland. The event serves as a reminder of the urgent need to protect athletes from exploitation. Human trafficking in sports is a widespread yet often overlooked issue. Young athletes, especially women and girls pursuing careers in sports, are particularly vulnerable. Therefore, all stakeholders must work together to raise awareness, reinforce mechanisms that prevent and combat human trafficking in sports. Thank you for your commitment to ensuring a sporting environment that respects human rights. And now I will turn the floor over to His Excellency, Mr. Lansana Alison Gberi, the Ambassador of the Permanent Mission of the Sierra Leone to the UN, who will deliver his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lerina. You brought this forward and brought it to fruition and the Commission of Malta and my dear colleagues here, my friend Christian and everyone. Thank you very much. Sierra Leone has always been very strongly dedicated to human rights, protection and women's empowerment, particularly this government, particularly in sporting context. We are a sport-loving nation like most countries around the world. We have a very strong commitment to combating human trafficking, which is a major problem around the world and in our region as well, which is why we decided to join this effort to highlight this problem and to find ways to combat it. So I would like to welcome you all. It is a very busy week in Geneva. So I'm so very happy to see you all here today to join us in this great effort. I thank you very much, and I'll hand over now to my colleague, Christian?
No, Dr.
Maybe?
Dr.
Oh, Dr. Haas, yes. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, good afternoon, actually. Again, welcome. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for this wonderful remark. Just establishing the protocol for today, Your Excellencies, the Order of Malta, Ambassador to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, His Excellency Michel VEUTHEY, Sierra Leonean Ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, His Excellency Lansana Alison Gberi, the Costa Rican Ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva, Mr. Christina Gilmert Fernandez, and the Executive Director of Mission 89, Lorena Bright. Esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this crucial side event of the 59th section of the Human Rights Council. My name is Dr. May Ikora Amambo. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I'm the African Director for Mission 89 and the founder of Raising Women Initiative. It is my honor to serve as your moderator for today's side event, which is Safeguarding Women in Sport, a Global Action Against Trafficking and Exploitation. Today is a very special day for us because this event is a collaborative effort of the Order of Malta and Republic of Sierra Leone and the Republic of Costa Rica with Mission 89, demonstrating the power of partnerships in addressing global challenges such as trafficking in sports. We gather here with a shared purpose to shine a light on the overlooked issue of human trafficking in sports and to mobilize action against this sort of modern slavery. This side event is particularly timely as it provides the UEFA Women Euros 2025 tournament taking place here in Switzerland. Basically, the opportunity for us to really talk about issues that are affecting women in sports. Most of the time, we tend to focus on the men because obviously they dominate this game, but women are really crucial, and this is really a great time to really be having this conversation. Our discussion today will contribute to the growing body of knowledge on safeguarding women in sports from trafficking and exploitation. And we have a diverse panel of experts and stakeholders here with us today, as you can see on the high table, international organization and civil society. And their insights, I believe, is invaluable as we work towards a practical solution to ending human trafficking in sports. This event is going to be it's going to unfold in 5 parts. One is the keynote, which we've already had from His Excellencies, and the Global Thematic Report, which will be reported by Katrina Swartz online, and the panel discussion, which we're going to have. Most of them are on the table here. A call to action, because at the end of the day, after the talks, there must be practical steps for us to begin to do something about the problem that we've all outlined. And a closing remark from our very dear, hardworking Executive Director, Lorena Bright. May I use this opportunity to call upon our keynote speaker for today, who is Miss Marie-Laure Lemur. Did I pronounce it well?
Yes, perfect.
Fantastic. She is head of FIFA Safeguarding and Child Protection, leading global efforts to create safer football environments for players of all ages. If you want to know more about this amazing woman right here, you check our concept notes to read more about her bio. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you. Do you believe men and women have equal rights to protection from harassment and abuse? Football is traditionally a male-dominated sport. Consequently, many of the known most extreme cases of abuse in football involve men who were abused as boys. Young players continue to be abused. In March 2025, the FIFA Ethics Chamber issued a lifetime ban from all football-related activities at national and international levels, sanctioning a former coach of the U17 men's national team of the Gabonese Football Federation. He had sexually abused young male players in his country for years at scale. I once heard a football association leader say that safeguarding efforts are only intended to protect girls and women in football. These statements possibly reflect his cultural environment in which women are perceived as weak and vulnerable and in need of protection from men who are naturally capable of protecting themselves. Therefore, in his views, there is no need to implement measures to prevent young male players from being trafficked. Similarly, he sees no need for a code of conduct to prevent staff from entering male players' hotel rooms when traveling for competitions, nationally or internationally. If this gentleman were to receive a report concerning allegations about a coach behavior affecting U17 male team, there is a high risk that he would not take it seriously. Research findings show that the groups most at risk of abuse and harassment in sports are women, who are traditionally targeted, minors, boys and girls, athletes from the LGBT community, men and women, athletes with disabilities, men and women, aspiring elite athletes, men and women. Therefore, both men and women are at risk of victimization when we take a closer look from my perspective and my practice. This is certainly what we experience on a daily basis. This is why from within the sports sector, including elite sports, we must be careful not to render the harm caused to boys and men invisible. Boys and girls, men and women should be equally protected. As individuals within the sports sector, we should educate sports and football organizations that unacceptable behaviors, abusive coaching practices, criminal behaviors harming those under their care should not be tolerated, regardless of the gender of the victims and of the perpetrators. This does not prevent us from acknowledging that there are nuances and specificities depending on the genders. I'm not disputing the existing findings on gender-based violence in society at all. We must adapt our prevention efforts to take those nuances and specificities into account and agree that response mechanisms for victims must offer the same level of protection to anyone who needs it. At FIFA, we therefore adopt an inclusive approach. Academic research widely documents that one of the root causes of abuse and harassment is the abuse of power. It is the abuse of power. In football, many individuals in positions of power can influence the lives of millions of girls, boys, men, and women. We must not underestimate the power of a coach to select a player. There are plenty of real-life examples. A male national coach who asks female players to pay him to be selected to play on the national team. A male coach who singles out one of his young male players, grooms him into believing he will secure a contract with a top club, and sexually abuses him. A female coach who asks one of her players to cook at her house and harasses her. Those are real-life examples. If we go back in time, we can mention the cases of the presidents of the Afghan and Haitian football federations who were banned for life from football by FIFA Ethics Committee for sexually abusing girl players, minors, for years and years. Over the years, we have witnessed the rise of women's football, with more and more women around the world aspiring to become players or officials. We celebrate this. We celebrate the UEFA Women's Euro 2025, of course. Not more than yesterday, I heard from a safeguarding expert from another region of the world who works for a football confederation. I heard him express his concerns over more and more allegations that some women who had the aspiration of becoming officials, referees in his region, were asked for sexual favors from those who had the power to select them and make that happen. While this is not scientific from an academic perspective, the growing body of what we might call anecdotal reports means something from my perspective. Perhaps this indicates that alongside with the increased participation of women or female in football, women and girls, there will also be an increase in opportunities for harm affecting these girls and women in football. All of this is applicable during competition and off competition time. But additionally, safeguarding operations during tournaments, such as like the UEFA, the Euro 2025, they have specific features to influence how cases and incidents are prevented and addressed. For a start, a competition is time-bound. This means that more or less between 15 and 48 teams from all over the world or from one region will be gathered in one host country or multiple countries for a few weeks. Incidents are sometimes reported the day before they travel back to their home country because they didn't qualify for the next round. Legally speaking, if an incident occurs on the site of the host country laws apply. We have encountered situations where a report was made during the competition about an incident that is occurring not at the venue, not in the host country, but back home. Why? Because being away from a toxic environment at home can make players feel safer and enable them to share what they are experiencing back home. Players are made more vulnerable when they are away from home. It is therefore essential to strictly regulate what constitutes acceptable and unacceptable behaviors, and to decide what sanctions will be imposed in case of non-compliance during competition. This might include raising awareness of what is and isn't culturally unacceptable within the host country. Before closing, I'd like to share one final thought. Based on my experience, all too often, we are very Eurocentric when discussing these topics. The way sports organizations, their staff, and leadership address, solve, or ignore these issues is influenced by their laws and regulatory framework, their cultural and religious contexts, their organizational cultures, and many other factors. Conversations about safeguarding, therefore, should also address the systems that allow individuals to harm others with impunity within football. We all have a responsibility to come together and adapt our strategies and our narratives to influence these systems, change the culture, and hopefully the people who form part of them. Our goal is very clear. We want to reduce the risk of abuse and harassment in football. When it does happen, we want to support those in need with a victim-focused approach. Our president stated that as the football regulatory body, we have a duty of care towards anyone harmed in and through football. The FIFA Safeguarding and Child Protection Departments, which I have the privilege to lead, is a concrete institutional response that demonstrates how FIFA embraces this duty. Our strategic approach, I insist, is to work inclusively within our football ecosystem to create systemic and sustainable change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marie-Laure. That was indeed a really, really interesting presentation, and the fact that you talked about addressing systems for us to be able to address the foundation itself that actually helps perpetrate this crime legally, if I may say, and coming from the head of Safeguarding FIFA, which is a regulatory body, that is indeed a welcome recommendation. So I'll move very swiftly to the presentation, which is going to happen online by our colleague, Dr. Katrina Swartz. She's going to be talking about the Global Thematic Report, a really important report that was produced by Mission 89, very welcomed report because, you know, here we're talking about sports trafficking, but the definition of sports trafficking is something that we've all had to critique. We're not saying that report is gives us the full definition of trafficking completely, because everyone has something to say, but it is there for us to critique and make better. It's a great body of work by some amazing experts, Katrina being one of them. Is Katrina online here now to join us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm also here.
Hi, Katrina.
I hope you can all see me and hear me.
We can hear her. We can hear her.
Lovely. Shall I go ahead?
It's okay, you can speak. You need to use a headset.
Thanks everyone. I'll just run ahead because I am not able to share my screen, so I hope you'll forgive not having access to the slides. Thanks so much to the organizers and everyone involved in the report, and I will just provide a brief technical analysis of the material presented in the report for you today.
I think everyone is using their headsets so that way you can hear them. Yes.
And let me also apologize for not being there in person and beg your patience if the connection is a little bit dodgy. I'm here in Uganda, launching some new national guidelines on care and support for survivors of trafficking, which work very well in line with this Global Thematic Report. So just to contextualize a little bit, I just want to introduce everyone to the typology of sport trafficking presented in the Global Thematic Report, discuss some of the case studies that are presented, as well as introduce the interpretive guide and reflect on how this can inform efforts to safeguard women in sports. And just to begin with a general note about the gender dynamics of trafficking in persons. Trafficking in persons in general, as well as sports trafficking specifically, are highly gendered phenomena. Not only are the legal frameworks focused on gender dynamics specifically, including reference to specific dynamics for trafficking of women and children in the Global Palermo Protocol, but the experiences of exploitation and coercion within the context of trafficking are also highly gendered. We also see visibility differentiated by gender because what we look for in trafficking in persons is shaped by gendered stereotypes and gendered norms, and that also shapes the interventions that are structured to address trafficking in persons. So gender shapes every aspect of trafficking in persons, from the phenomena itself all the way through to the way we intervene. So then when we think specifically about sport trafficking, the Global Thematic Report focused on defining sport trafficking within the context of our existing international legal frameworks. That means that we weren't seeking to redefine trafficking in persons, but to provide a definition of sport trafficking rooted in the existing legal framework. And that led us to the definition that sport trafficking is the act of recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, or receiving an individual, typically an athlete or aspiring athlete, within or across borders through coercive or deceptive or other abusive means for the purpose of exploitation in, through, or around sports. Exploitation may manifest as forced labor, sexual exploitation, slavery, servitude within sport-related activities or event, and of course, in the case of children, no coercive means must be present. And this produces three subsets of sport trafficking that make up our typology. The first is trafficking in sport. This places sport and the sporting environment at the heart of the exploitation and involves recruitment and exploitation of athletes and aspiring athletes, primarily for their talent and the material benefit that they can provide their traffickers or other actors who are complicit in their ongoing exploitation. In other words, the athlete is exploited within the sport. The second kind of sports trafficking we identify in the report is trafficking through sport, which can be understood in terms of how sport is used to recruit athletes, primarily through the use of fraud, deception, and abuse of vulnerability for the exploitation of an aspiring athlete outside of sport. In these cases, traffickers prey on the aspirations of their victims with false promises of careers and opportunities in elite sports. And the final subset is trafficking around sport. These are cases that are more readily identifiable as sport is typically incidental to the exploitation rather than a primary driver. In these cases, exploitation can take place around the fringes of sport, as is the case, for instance, in the use of forced labor in the construction of stadiums, the manufacture and production of goods and services for sports or sporting events, and coerced commercial sexual exploitation around sporting events. And this further breaks down into a set of several different types within these 3 subsets, 5 different types of exploitation in sport, 4 different types of exploitation through sport, and 3 types of exploitation around sport, each of which is defined by the context in which that exploitation is occurring, as well as the identity of the perpetrators, whether that be intermediaries, sporting actors themselves, or other incidental actors. Just to move on then briefly to introduce the case studies presented in the thematic report. The report presents 7 thematic case studies identified through analysis of reporting on sports trafficking incidents. 2 of those case studies are specifically related to women and girls in the context of sport, and I'm going to just briefly introduce those 2 case studies to contextualize the information. But I want to also note that in the context of sport trafficking, we have no robust data on sports trafficking cases at scale because they have been insufficiently attended to globally. Identified cases are heavily reliant on the focus of interventions that happen to have taken place and of where attention is being spent rather than the true extent of the phenomenon. And public understanding of sports trafficking is heavily reliant on news media reporting. This produces a skewing effect in the context of sports trafficking on which sports trafficking types are visible, which geographies are represented, which sports are represented, which also has a gendered component because the exploitation of people within sports may be highly gendered by sport and sport type, which victims and survivors are represented, as well as which perpetrators are represented. So just to give you one example of the case studies, there's one case study involving elite female Taekwondo athletes recruited to train under a specific well-known trainer, Stephen Lopez, and travel to domestic and international tournaments. While acting as their coach, Lopez abused his position of power and the vulnerability of the athletes that he recruited and groomed them often as minors who were then sexually exploited by both Lopez and his brother. Athletes feared both physical harm and retaliation in their sporting careers if they did not comply. And here we see a key component of the sports-specific coercion that exists in sports trafficking cases, where the elite sporting career is a mechanism of coercion and control over aspiring athletes. Now, these cases were reported and ultimately addressed, but not satisfactorily, and the United States Olympic Committee was considered not to have responded satisfactorily to the case. In the interest of time, I won't go into any further detail about individual cases, but I encourage you all to review that in the context of the report. So finally, just to contextualize, a useful tool for anyone thinking about safeguarding women in sports, and that's the interpretive guide that goes alongside the Global Thematic Report. The interpretive guide seeks to explain the context, content, meaning, and interpretation of the legal definition of trafficking in persons as it applies to the specific phenomenon of sport trafficking. It offers guidance on the application of international and domestic anti-trafficking law to cases of trafficking in persons in and through sports. And this helps us to understand and contextualize and reflect on how the ways that we understand trafficking in persons more broadly must be contextualized and specifically framed in the context of sports and can be used by a range of different actors and organizations. I want to thank you all for being here today, reflecting a commitment to safeguarding women in sport and to taking action to better address the trafficking in women and girls that takes place within sport. And thank also Mission 89 for the wonderful work they've done coordinating this paper. And I look forward to hearing additional reflections from folks. Thank you for listening through the internet connection.
Thank you very much, Katrina. Katrina is an associate professor in anti-slavery law and policy at the University of Nottingham, an associate director of the Rights Lab, pioneering research and policy guidance to end modern slavery. And thank you, Katrina, for the timely presentation of this 152 pages report, believe me. I want to also say a big congratulations to Mission 89. I was part of this research and it wasn't an easy feat for everyone who took part, and for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, CPA UK, for also financially supporting Mission 89 to see that we begin to have conversations around this area. It's one thing to support those who have been trafficked. It's one thing to identify them, actually, then it's another thing to support them. But when sometimes we actually criminalize victims because we cannot identify them because of a lack of a legal definition of who they are and what they are and what this crime truly is, it just tells you that a report like this is really crucial to our work. And today, when we talk about the gender element of it, it just helps us extend this report. And like what Katrina said earlier when she said limited data, this just basically means the importance of investment in research. And research not just in sports in general, but also looking at the gender element of sports as well. With this, I'd like to introduce our panel discussion. We have about 4 of us on this panel. Again, I still stand as your moderator. I'm going to start with one of the panel speakers on my left, and that's the person of Ashley Plumtree. Ashley Plumtree is a professional footballer for Etihad and Nigeria national team, and an outspoken advocate for child protection and ethical practices in youth sports. We also have...
Yeah, I suggest that those of us not on the panel, so the panelists come to the...
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Okay, yeah, sure.
It's just better, right?
Okay. Okay.
In the panel, no.
No,
I'm doing closing
closing,
mechanisms.
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
So sorry, just space and discipline.
I think they're okay where they are. Yeah. Because of their names. No, it's okay. Yes. No, it's okay. You're special, Chair. We just want to make sure that people are able to identify you, are supposed to call you something. Okay, we also have Honorable Jared Okello. Honorable Jared is a Kenyan member of parliament known for his legislative work on healthcare, social development, and his advocacy against human trafficking through sports diplomacy. We also have Celine Moreau. Did I pronounce your name right? Oh, fantastic. I'm doing well. Is an associate lawyer and international human rights specialist, co-leading key legal commissions in Paris and Geneva, and with prior experience at International Labour Organization, ILO. I already introduced Marie-Laure. So these are my panel speakers. We're going to go very quickly because we don't have time. For every speaker, please keep your answers at 2 minutes max, please. We have 3 questions for all of you, so we really need to keep it moving. So I will start with Honorable Jared. My question to you is, sorry. We had to change your question last minute, so because we want to get the best out of him. He's indeed a very amazing speaker. So drawing from your experience as a legislator and advocate against trafficking through sports diplomacy, what practical legislative measures can Parliament adopt to close legal loopholes and protect women and girls in sports from exploitation?
I thank you very much, May, for giving me the opportunity. Allow me at the outset to thank Mission 89 for leading this most complex subject. I also thank Sierra Leone, and coming from Africa, you make me very proud that you are behind this subject. Let me thank the Sovereign Order of Malta, together with the Permanent Mission of Costa Rica, for the efforts to enlighten the populace around this complex subject. I would say that at least every country has some piece of legislation that touches on trafficking in general. But suffice to say, we still have about 50 million people trafficked out there. So that feeds into very serious gaps that need to be tightened in the course of our interaction as members of parliament. It is also important to note that at least 182 countries in the world have domesticated the UN protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons. The problem that we have, especially on this front, is what all countries have, which is access to bonds for people who have been apprehended or cash bails at the level of police stations. So you have people who have been arrested for committing these crimes. They checked in, they get checked in at the police stations, but then they access cash bails, which are usually very low, like $10 to $50 for such a serious perpetrator. Then they're allowed to be out there, not being subjected to the due process of our courts, the prosecution. So they continue perpetrating this same vice over and over again, because they know even if they get rearrested, they will still be eligible to cash bail and they will be out again. So that makes it very difficult for us to address this kind of crime. And therefore, legislators need to tighten these loose ends in a bid to deter this kind of menace that we have in our society. Then there is the element of lack of political goodwill. You know, we know what government is all about. Government can apply brakes on courts of law, not to go very hard on people. And you have people who are highly connected up there, who do not have, you know, any reason to appear before a court of law. And many times we have seen people escape bonds. But there is nothing you can do, because for one to be involved in trafficking, that is somebody who has a bit of social capital between above and below. So makes it very difficult for us to address this kind of problem. And then the lack of adequate training to our law enforcement officers. They're only trained to arrest and probably take them to our courts. But they do not have the training to detect a person who is getting involved in trafficking issues. And therefore, we have to scale up levels of trainings for our law enforcement officers so that they can go a step further to be able to combat this kind of crime. And then the bribery.
I have to be very strict with time because I have many questions for
All right, thank you.
This is Selene. Selene, why is it important to take a human rights-based approach when addressing trafficking and exploitation in sports, particularly regarding women and girls? 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Maybe just to begin, what would be a human rights-based approach? It's a framework that would integrate internationally recognized human rights standards, which means that these standards need to be integrated, for instance, in the world of sports, in governance, in recruitment, in athletes protection, and in the reparation of the damages. That is what the approach is. It's also an approach that is based on the principle that individuals have rights, the right bearers, and that governments and institutions have duties. Why is this approach essential in addressing trafficking and exploitation? Well, first, because human trafficking is a multi-dimensional problematic. So you need to have a multi-dimensional response to the issue. You also need to create bridges between different frameworks of protection. And with a human rights-based approach, you will be able to have that multi-dimensional response. That's what the standards offer. Going back to sport, sport is not just about entertainment. It's not just about competition. It's not just about promoting beautiful values of fairness, of equality and peace. It's also about work. It's also about recruitment. It's also about migration. It's also about, unfortunately, corruption and discrimination. International human rights instruments will cover all of these issues. And it will call on governments to cooperate to combat human trafficking. And we've heard about the importance of international cooperation to address the issue of human trafficking. The report goes over the different instruments, so I'm not going to go back into the details of these instruments, and I will refer to the report. However, I just want to stress that the conventions on human trafficking, they do include provisions on international cooperation. And the fact that some perpetrators could be moving from one country to another has been raised in the previous presentations. This is an issue that is being addressed in the human rights conventions through the notion of international cooperation. So I'm going to stop you there too as well. I'm so sorry. I have to really speak, otherwise we're going to be here all day. And thank you for what the answer you've given us, talking about other dimensions beyond entertainment when it comes to sports. Now, my next question goes to Ashley. So Ashley, you practically are sports itself when it comes to the conversation we're having. So from your perspective, as a professional athlete, what are some of the unique vulnerabilities women and girls face in the world of sports and that often goes unrecognized?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. It's a privilege to be in spaces like this when most of the time I'm actually on a football field. So, I think for me, being a part of women's football, especially the journey that I've been on, I've been very privileged that I grew up in the UK, and my pathway to the places I've been able to go and the places that I've been able to play and meet people, it's always been quite smooth, I'll be honest. And obviously, as previously mentioned, I've played for the Nigerian women's national team, and through that, and knowing that everybody's path to getting to the position that we're in is not always the same. And I think I've noticed, to directly answer the question, you can see that there's a surge in interest in women's football. And with that, there's a lot of opportunities now. So especially for a lot of aspiring players obviously I'm more associated to Africa, but for all of those girls that want these opportunities, they will jump on any opportunity that is thrown at them, because for a lot of them, they are supporting their families, they're supporting almost like the next generation, they are the representative of their club. There's a lot of pressure on them, but you can see that there's not legitimate pathways that they are informed about or know about, and that they aren't trusted. They don't trust. They're at the point where they will just go to whatever opportunity is given to them, and they don't necessarily know where they will end up, pretty much. So I think for us, I think I'm here just trying to, like I said, be a representative of saying, like, they are greater risks now because there is an increase in interest, and that means there's more susceptibility to fake agents. So yeah, and the last thing I'll say on this is you see a lot of the men's footballers, they see the 1% of footballers that make it, and they think that that could be them, and maybe it could, but now because there's an increase in opportunities in women's football, you have female athletes doing the same thing. So they see the celebrity female footballers that make it and live this lifestyle that they want, and yeah, they will take any route that they think can give them that same life experience.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And, you're just echoing what Marie-Laure also mentioned about the growing attention to women's sports, and the fact that we need to learn from what's happened in men's sports and ensure that we don't have the level of exploitation that men have faced in their sports, and have women experience that, because we're already experiencing that, but now it's going to be in 1,000-fold, and we are having another opportunity for exploiters to take advantage. I'm going to call on the next speaker, who is online, Katrina Talas. I hope I pronounced her name well. Please forgive me in advance. She's also like Ashley. She is a Finnish professional goalkeeper for Dijon FCO in France, and the only Finnish woman to have won the UEFA's Champions League. So over to you, Katrina.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Now, my question to you is, as a football goalkeeper yourself, what role do you think athletes can play in advocating for stronger protection and safeguarding measures for women and girls in sports? 2 minutes, please.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and share my thoughts and experiences about human trafficking, exploitation, and problems in football. According to my experience, it is very important to give more knowledge and education for younger generation and other players who are planning to transfer from place to place about the risks that are happening in sports and in football. I think at any age and at any level, the player needs to have external support, meaning that the player could officially sign with an agency or with an agent that is all the time running the rights for the player. And the moment when the player is going to a new environment, to a new club or to another country, the club needs to be very active towards the player, meaning that the club could, for example, provide extra people to help the foreigners to adapt better to the culture, to the language and all that, so the player will be never left alone. And now playing in France, for many years, we have Players Association that works all the time with federation and towards the players and with the clubs, and the Players Federation is always on the players' side, and the players are always free to go and talk to them and ask any questions, any concerns, anything that if they know if it's right or wrong. So the Player Association is there yearly and even monthly to take care of the players and the clubs, that everything is working well and there will be no further problems. But I think the most important part is that as a player and playing in this level and speaking for the younger athletes, that we share our thoughts and concerns and information, and especially our education about human trafficking, exploitation, and all the problems that is happening in football and in sports, that we can prevent these future risks, and we can share the thoughts with everybody who's in sports. And especially for me, when I was young and I signed for the first time for a professional club, I was the youngest one in the team and I didn't know much about it. And I was very happy that I have older players in the team, that they're always able to talk and share their thoughts and their opinions about something that I didn't know about, meaning that I could be safe in the team and I would feel that there would be no problems. Of course, there's always problems, but to prevent these risks, and at this moment, I'm very happy to be able to share my education and my information for younger people and for other players as well, that there are risks in sports, there are harassments, there are everything in sports, but to prevent this all together, I think it's something what we all have to share and talk about. Thank you.
Because of timing, we're just going straight to the call to action, and I'm going to start with Marie-Laure, because at the end of the day, it starts with the regulators too. So looking ahead, based on all the conversations that have been had here today, what concrete steps should football institutions take to ensure effective and enforcement and monitoring of safeguarding frameworks across all levels of this game? 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. First, find the safeguarding champion among the leadership team. EXCO, President or Secretary General, leadership endorsement in a sports organization is vital. If the leaders of the sports organization do not believe that they have a duty of care, impact will be limited. Number two, Create an external stakeholders advisory committee. Sports organizations do not specialize in preventing and responding to violence. Their core business is sports. There are others who specialize in this area. Therefore, they need to invite representatives from these other organizations to guide them and support them in developing safeguarding policies and procedures. Number 3, be very practical and prioritize developing specific procedures as needed. If a lot of competitions are coming up, the priority should be or could be to draft and endorse a code of conduct for competition periods, inform the team and the technical staff and make them sign it and comply. Protect people. An organization can have the most sophisticated policies and procedures in place. They can easily remain and largely remain ineffective if staff, players, and leadership do not want to become part of a stronger culture of safeguarding. In other words, if there is no ownership by staff. Finally, the subject matter of safeguarding are human beings. If those who have been harmed, the victims, do not trust the systems and procedures that have been put in place, no progress will be made. Building trust should be a priority. This is the intangible aspect of safeguarding and perhaps the most important. Thank you.
Thank you very much for keeping it just on time. Thank you so much. And I'm going to call on His Excellency, Mr. Christian Gilbert Fernandez, Ambassador, Permanent Mission of the Republic of Costa Rica to the United Nations, for a call to action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And allow me first to congratulate the organizers and also all of you that here. This is exactly the good place here in the Palais des Nations during this human rights session, council session, where we need to discuss issues like this one. Those who are not visible but are there and we need to tackle. And after all the presentations, first of all, I think that the call of action was so clear made by Marie-Laure. And I think that what I can bring to the discussion as a summary of what we said is that, first of all, this awareness on the gender specific on trafficking of sports is fundamental. We need to have that very clear in our mind and introduce in our narrative all the time. Not only when we talk about sports, but when we talk about trafficking and when we talk about the rights of the half of humanity. Women and girls, half of the humanity. And this is fundamental for us, and I think this is fundamental. Second is the media coverage. It's something that we need to push these issues on the media to bring them. And also, as Marie-Laure said, on the associations, the federations, we need to have that. And what I bring from one of the issues that I think is important to say again, we are all in a situation of vulnerability. Not matter if you are a boy, if you are a girl, if you are a woman, or you are a man, everybody can be part of this terrible human rights violation. The impunity is something that we need also to face. It's not possible. If you have awareness, if you say really there are rights for the people in sports, but you need also to have the fight against the impunity. And this means also that we need to act also with the federations. It's a matter of power, that's clear. It's the federations and the Euro now 2025. I heard yesterday in the radio someone said the feminine Euro 25, and her daughter of 10 years old. They say, why you say that? When you talk about the Euro, you don't say the male Euro 2022, which is it's true. It's Euro 25. But this have, again, I said, there is a situation of vulnerability, and I appreciate also the report made. I'm very, because of time. Yeah. But I still have 1 minute. and I finish. And Caterina bring us also the issue of the report where we have some figures. And what is the importance of that is data. Is data that we need to have data to really face the challenges in this issue, but in others. Vulnerability, we all agree on that. Talk about that. I think that Caterina, the other Caterina, we have a lot of Caterinas here, said also that to talk about people protect people, and I think that this is fundamental. And if you say me on the call of action, I think three things: when, where, and how. When is right now. Where, I think here in the global action, in the Human Rights Council, at the international level with the Federation, and at the local level, at the national level, but also with the small teams to talk about the vulnerability, the reality of the organized crime who is dealing with that, the power, and how. I think that the lines that Marie-Laure give us to us, this call of action, is exactly what we can do. And to talk about the rights of the player, why not? It's time now that we have on the spot the championships and everything coming, that we start to talk about that. I think that I hope that my summary was clear for all of you and give us some elements to continue this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fantastic. Yeah, this is a very, very good presentation and a good way to close this side event. A big thank you to everyone who has been part of this, either as a panel speaker, a moderator, a keynote speaker, or just observing. Thank you so much, and let's continue this conversation from here.